news just broke from Jason Schreier that the next Naughty Dog game, Intergalactic, The Heretic Prophet, is reportedly not coming out until after 2026, meaning 2027, 2028, something like that, which would mean a solid like 7 years between releases, which is crazy. I know technically they've done remasters and remakes, but you get what I mean, like actual full releases. So a bizarre thing. There's a chance that The Heretic Prophet comes out as a cross-generational game between PS5 and PS6. That would be crazy if they like literally like almost completely leapfrogged over the PS5 generation. That would be crazy. But with this, there's also been some discourse with Neil Druckmann talking to IGN about the game, which I figured we could go through this real quick and touch on. So yeah, Jason Schreier took to Reset Era to say that neither The Witcher 4 nor Intergalactic will be out next year, which already it feels weird to say like, oh, it's not out next year, therefore it's 2026 or it's 2027 at the earliest. My brain still doesn't think that it's 2025. That feels crazy. Next year is 2026, but that's where we are. So we're starting to push towards the end of the generation already, which again is insane. But anyway, that means Witcher 4 Intergalactic, The Heretic Prophet will be released in 2027 at the earliest. And like The Witcher 4 Intergalactic, The Heretic Prophet will face questions around whether or not it's targeting the PlayStation 5 or the inevitable PlayStation 6, or perhaps most likely it's a cross-gen game. I think, again, this is the most likely thing. I don't think they would have revealed it if they thought that it was going to be a PS6 game. I just don't think it makes sense to reveal it right now as a PS5 game and then delay it into the PlayStation 6. To me, it makes sense that it's a cross-gen thing. Think of what they did with The Last of Us. The Last of Us was a PS3 game, and then they did a remaster that unlocked it at 60 high resolution on the PS4 like a year later with the DLC, the Left Behind. Is it Left Behind? I think it is. I don't know. Whatever the DLC is. I'm now questioning myself. But anyway, I think that they probably do that. Maybe they release it on the PS5, do a remaster, remake, whatever that they love a year later, and do it that way. So they continue on. If Intergalactic heads straight to PlayStation 6, Naughty Dog faces the prospect of having skipped the PS5 generation in terms of brand new games. So far, the studio's released ports, remasters, and remakes on Sony's current gen console, including The Last of Us Part 2, Uncharted Lost Legacy, or Legacy of Thieves collection, The Last of Us Part 1, and The Last of Us Part 2 remastered. My understanding is that these projects have primarily been a training tool for new hires. I forget where I saw that, but I think it was one of the employees at Naughty Dog was like, yeah, we've been using these projects to help train new employees on the tools that we use for our upcoming games, which is not a bad way to do it. I mean, notably, I think Todd Howard even said that Skyrim Anniversary Edition was a training tool for them to like practice on next gen hardware, which at the time was PS4 and Xbox One, or it was around that time. And then they eventually released it. So anyway, but this is like a common thing. Naughty Dog revealed Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet at the Game Awards in 2024. It features a star-studded cast that involves Tati Gabrielle from Uncharted movie as protagonist, Jordan A. Munn, and Kumail Nanjiani of Marvel's Eternals as a man called Colin Graves. But fans have analyzed the trailer below to piece together the rest of the cast, and though it focuses on just a couple of characters, a photo of what appears to be the whole crew revealed more. Earlier this month, Last of Us director Neil Druckmann shared more details about the game. So in an interview with Alex Garland, the writer of the zombie movie 28 Days Later, Druckmann talked candidly about the development process, confirming Intergalactic had been in the works for 4 years already. 4 years. 4 years. Now, notably, this is the first game built from the ground up under Naughty Dog's new like philosophy, new culture, whatever. Basically, prior to up until The Last of Us Part 2, Naughty Dog was known as like Crunch City. It just was. Like if you worked at Naughty Dog, it was understood that you were crunching like a madman. You might have been sleeping at the studio. There were stories of people that would keep a pillow under their desk so that they could work until the late hours of the night, sleep, wake up in the morning, and just get back to work. That was just the culture. Like that's just what you did. And it was never mandated. My understanding is it was never mandated by the company, but it was one of those things like if everybody else around you is working late and you're the one person that leaves, you're probably not getting that promotion. You're probably going to be like made fun of by your fellow coworkers. You're probably going to be guilt tripped about it. Like that's just how it happens. The peer pressure. It's a big problem. And if you watch the Grounded 2 documentary, they talked about how after they got the Last of Us Part 2 out, they focused very hard on trying to strip that out of the company, on trying to make it much more healthy as a work environment. So they put in, steps to anonymously say if you're overworked, and then somebody comes forward and can make sure you get the time you need. They're able to make sure that you're not working late. They're able to do all of this stuff to just ensure things are working properly, which I think is good. But it also means that if they used to get, they work you 100% and then they got another 30% labor out of you because you were working overtime and staying late. Now they don't have that. So their productivity has fallen, so it takes them longer to make the games. But that's the cost of not having a toxic workplace, I guess. But he says, quote, "I joke about this with the team. We made a game, The Last of Us 2. We made certain creative decisions that got us a lot of hate. A lot of people love it, but a lot of people hate that game," Druckmann said, to which Garland joked, "Who gives a shit?" This is one thing I'll give him credit for, is that he's just like, yeah, a lot of people hate The Last of Us Part 2. He's at least saying it, like, as it is, because it's true. A lot of people hate The Last of Us Part 2. They just do. We looked at that interview with Todd Howard with, I think it was Greg Miller, and he was like, how do you respond to the polarized reception? Some people really like that game. Some people thought it was really bad. What do you think of that, Todd? And Todd's like, yeah, there's a lot of people that loved Starfield, and there's a lot of people that loved it less. It's like, that's the most used car salesman corporate doublespeak thing ever. Like, no, they didn't hate it. They just loved it less than the people that loved it. It's like, technically that's true. If the people that loved it this much, and the people that hated it loved it zero, technically, yeah, they loved it less. But you know what you're doing. You're trying to spin it, make it sound better. But Druckmann is just like, nah, a lot of people hate it. Which, again, I appreciate. He's just like, yep, some people hate it. Yep. Druckmann says, exactly, in response to this. But the joke is like, you know what? Let's do something that people won't care as much about. Let's make a game about faith and religion. But as long as it's okay, faith, religion as topics in stories, that's fine. That's fine. If it's like a unique religion that's invented for this, that's cool. I think that can work, because these topics are interesting. Like, just earlier in the stream, we were talking about Detroit Become Human, and I love how they explored some of these topics of like sentience, topics about like class systems, the idea that like if an android, if a robot can like present itself and can appear human, does it mandate being treated as human? If you can't tell the difference between a real human and a fake human, should you treat them both the same, just to cover your bases? It created a lot of interesting topics. Now, they were a little heavy-handed in Detroit Become Human with some of the other themes, especially at the end of the game, where it's like, yeah, we know what you're saying with the robots. We're like, hey, the robots are going to be rounded up and then decommissioned in these giant chambers. Like, we all knew what you were doing. But still, like, I thought that some of those topics were interesting. And because it was in this alternative future and everything was fictional, you could discuss it without necessarily pissing a lot of people off right at the outset. So it could work. It could work. But it's a game about faith and religion, which I'm sure we'll see how that cookie crumbles. Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, takes place in an alternative historical timeline and features a pretty prominent religion too, which has changed and bastardized and evolved over the years. So they're actually going to take a real world, pretty prominent religion and change, bastardize, and evolve it. I mean, we'll see how this goes. They might be playing with fire. Okay, we'll see. It would be really funny if it were like Scientology, and like you play this game, and then L. Ron Hubbard is just there with wings, and he's the final boss fight. I'd be in for that. Xenu shows up, You know what? This sounds great. I'm in, Neil. You convinced me. This whole religion takes place on this one planet, and then at one point, all communication stops, Druckmann teased, and you're playing a bounty hunter that's chasing her bounty. Makes sense. And she crash lands on this planet. So many of the previous games we've done, there's always like an ally with you, he said. I really want you to be lost in a place that you're really confused about what happened here. Who are the people here? What was their history? And in order to get off this planet, again, no one has heard from this planet for over 600 years or so. If you ever have hoped to have a chance to get off, you have to figure out what happened here. Assuming Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet releases in 20, I'll get to that in a second. This is the other thing is people have paired this with other interviews that Neil did back like a year, 2 years ago, right in the wake of Elden Ring. And he said, what interests me right now is games that don't hold your hand, games that don't explain things overtly to you. He's like, and we're experimenting with a lot of that. The idea that we can tell stories without having to have cutscenes and dialogue. You know, we can just tell it environmentally. And I think that that's what they're going to do. And there's been all sorts of leaks, rumors, and rumblings that people internally at Naughty Dog are comparing this to Elden Ring in terms of structure. So it seems like it's going to be a much different game than something like The Last of Us Part 2. Much, much, much different. So we'll see. We'll see. Assuming Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet releases in 2027 and taking into account Druckmann's comment about it being in development for 4 years or so, or so far, by the time the game comes out, it will have been in the works for 6 years. It's a pretty long wait, but speaking to IGN on the red carpet ahead of The Last of Us Season 2 premiere, Druckmann said that Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet is not only playable right now, but, quote, really good. He said on the red carpet, quote, I will say we are playing it at the office and it's incredible. It's really good. I'm so excited to finally put gameplay out into the world and show people about it because we just showed you the very, very, very tip on the iceberg. The game goes pretty deep beyond that, which I believe. My stance has always been that I think it probably ends up being a really impressive game because Naughty Dog knows how to make really impressive games, but I just think that trailer was a bad trailer. I don't think it communicated enough about the game, and I don't blame people for being kind of underwhelmed by it. But I do think if they come out swinging with like a gameplay trailer, the narrative around the game could totally shift. If it actually is, you know, reminiscent of Elden Ring in terms of structure, and they have some really big, unique boss fights and things, and the combat system's really good, and the graphics are on the level they typically achieve, it could be really stunning. It could be really impressive. I'm excited to see it, but we just don't have more to go with at this point. When do I think we practically see it? I think we realistically see it probably late, like mid to late next year. I'd be surprised if we see anything this year about it. Maybe we do, but I think that they're going to let The Last of Us Season 2 kind of take the focus, and they'll put out The Last of Us Part 2 remaster, whatever remake on PC here in just like a week or so. And then I think Sony's efforts are all going to be on Ghost of Yotei through the end of this year. So I think that the soonest we probably see Intergalactic is maybe Game Awards again with a gameplay reveal, or next summer, maybe. But I just, if it's not coming out till 2027, I don't know why they would start doing a lot of like gameplay reveals now, like unless they're just trying to fill out a summer showcase. But that's the thing, is like they have Ghost of Yotei for the end of this year. They have the Horizon online game. They have a couple of other Horizon projects as well. They have Fair Game Dollar Sign. They have Death Stranding 2. Like they have things to show this summer, this June. I just don't know if they need Heretic Prophet. I think that they could probably sit on that till next year and be fine. But who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us. We're also getting Saros gameplay reveal this year. Yeah, exactly. Like they've got a lot of stuff, and I think that they probably don't need to reveal the Naughty Dog gameplay yet. He took my thing.